In 1999, Morpheus offered Neo a choice between a red pill and a blue pill. In 2018, this country fractured between red and blue. In 2022, I'm here to tell you that if you really want the truth, more voters are neither red or blue. Yet, they have no representation, no choice, and no options. They have to choose between candidates chosen by the red people or the blue people. I'm David Esrati, and I'm running for Congress as an American, as in red, white, and blue. I'm a veteran, an activist, and a small businessman. I'm asking you to join me in reminding the professional politicians in Congress who their bosses are. I support ranked choice voting, campaign finance reform, and a verified voter information system, all so we can stop having the best politicians money can buy. It's time to elect a veteran who will work for you, no matter what color they want to label you. Please go to electesrati.com and learn more. I'm David Esrati, and I approve this message. Jurassic Park, you thought those little baby dinosaurs were cute until they turned into out-of-control carnivores. That's sort of what happens to government when we elect people based on very expensive advertising campaigns and propaganda. I'm David Esrati. I'm a veteran and a small businessman running for Congress. You don't want professional ad people and pollsters to sway your vote. All those hot-button issues like gun control, abortion, borders are all politicized to stop you from voting rationally. And thinking rationally seems to be in short supply these days. Most Americans have been voting against their own best self-interest for a long time because we've allowed money to buy our leaders. 1 million Americans died in the last 2 years because our leaders couldn't lead. It wasn't that hard. Mask, distance, test, and then vaccinate. In an instant, we had billions to spend on healthcare for COVID, when for years we've been told we can't provide healthcare for everyone equally in this country. That's an unintended consequence of the pandemic. If you think about it, our government can pretty much do whatever it wants, or what the people who buy our politicians tell our leaders to do. We also had a ton of money to prop up businesses. And next thing you know, it turns out that a living wage was not only possible, but necessary. As a small businessman who won't sell you out to corporate interests and lobbyists, I can tell you that it's time to fully understand the consequences of companies like Amazon, Facebook, and Google and their effect on small business, and to remind you that small business is the #1 creator of jobs in this country. So this next election, don't trust this ad or any other political ad. Do your homework and think before you vote. It's time to put this ad man in Congress because I know that the best advertising is based on the truth, not the size of the budget or payola. Or you can just vote based on who has the money to buy their way into Congress and live with the consequences. I'm David Esrati, and I approve this message. Hi, I'm David Esrati, and welcome to my live stream, and happy birthday to me. Some of you I might see this evening at Coco's for my fundraiser birthday thing, which would be awesome. Apparently people are still reserving at the last minute. So if you want to do that, go to electesrati.com/events and look for the birthday bash and pay online or bring a check tonight. But it would be nice to know in advance so we can make sure we have tables and chairs. It'll be at Coco's upstairs. We'll have music, we'll have food. I got some cupcakes from Twist Cupcakery. If you haven't had one, you don't know what you're missing. Also, you can win a signed Shepherd Fairy print. That's pretty cool. It will be framed by my friends at Custom Frame Services. You just have to take it in there and they'll take care of you. So, yesterday the big news in Dayton Public Schools was our school district did something that no other school district in Ohio has done, and that is not only do they have a superintendent and a treasurer reporting directly to the school board, they have a business manager. And yes, it's difficult to run a public school system, especially an urban one, especially a large one in a city that looks like an octopus if you draw it on the map, because we've had all kinds of annexations and craziness. But the reality is there are 88 counties in this state, and there are 618 school districts. That's a major problem. And for the most part, they're not performing that well. But why am I talking about public education? Because that's run by local school boards, right? That's a local issue. That's local control. Well, you know, the number one reason people are disgusted with politicians and our form of government is they don't feel like they get their money's worth. They pay a ton of taxes and they don't see the results. And they happen to be right, because we rank 5th in spending per student. Only Austria, Luxembourg, Norway, and Switzerland spend more per student. Okay, so just like in defense, we spend more and we get less. So, put it in context, the Slovak Republic, which scores similarly to the U.S., spends $53,000 per student. The U.S. spends $115,000. So we're paying twice as much for mediocrity. The thing that brought this on really was an article in the New York Times yesterday that, or was it, I think it might have been Monday, because by today, New York's already working to fix this. But on Monday, the New York Times exposed that the Hasidic schools, which are religious schools for very observant Jews, kids were graduating without being able to read and write in English or do basic math, because all they'd done is study the Talmud. The scores were abysmal, and yet they were getting public dollars. Just sort of like charter schools do here, where the standards for being a teacher are nowhere near what they need to be in a public school system where you need a master's degree. Hell, you can walk off the street pretty much and become a Hasidic scholar or a teacher in a charter school in this state. That is sad. And people say, well, why are schools important? And why is education important? Well, I mean, it's pretty clear that good scores, good students, well-learned population is an economic indicator. That better scores says the economy will do well. So maybe the reason our economy isn't doing so well isn't because Joe Biden's president. Maybe it's because we've dumbed down after electing Donald Trump and we just haven't got our brains back to make things work. Reality is better educated people, better income, better standard of living. But in research looking at all the countries in the world, we still are mediocre. And there's a couple things that we need to look at. And people can say, well, it's those damn immigrants we teach. Well, Canada has more immigrants. And hell, they speak 2 languages there. I mean, you got to learn French and English. And still, guess what? Their system is way better than ours. And they spend less. Now, they don't have what most countries do, which is they don't have a centralized Ministry of Education. That's almost the winning formula at every other country in the world. But Canada does have it split down to the provinces. They don't have it state by state, county by county, municipality by municipality. Again, 618 school districts in Ohio is absolutely insane. So, I see Jed has brought up maybe if Dayton schools were better, Dayton would have been rated as the 5th most dangerous city in the U.S. by who knows who. They had that on WTTN. And yes, our murder rates are kind of high per 1,000, and we haven't even had a mass shooting here this year. But I think it was those were the 2019 numbers, and that's probably increased by 1 mass shooting. I see Tam has mentioned a good education is a foundation for economic stability, mental stability, family stability, social stability, and chances for success in life. Shall I go on? Yes, you can go on, but you're stealing my thunder, and if my viewers are smarter than me, then they should be running for Congress. Right? The reality is we need better people running for Congress. And part of the issue in every other country that is not a problem there, that is a problem here, is healthcare. You have to be healthy in order to learn. You have to be well fed in order to learn. You can't be living in poverty in order to learn. And unfortunately, even other countries that are supposedly not such an economic, fantastic system, they're doing this better. China does it better. They got a lot more people than we do by a factor of, I don't know. I can't do math with that many commas, okay? So the reality is they've got over 1 billion people and they're doing a better job of educating. So what are some of the things that we need to have happen, okay? One of them is not just the Common Core, which was an idea of standardizing a system, but we need to work on common teacher training. We need to work on standardized evaluations of teachers, and we need to work on funding this better. Realistically, think about how much money we waste having, in Ohio alone, 618 superintendents. Hell, Jefferson Township has a district, 480 something students. That's an elementary school, and they have a treasurer, a school board, a superintendent. That's insane. So we need to consolidate some of this down and get to reasonable standards for, size of districts, and then we need to look at professional standards for teaching. Finland treats their teachers like a highly valued profession. They pay them well, and they get results. Our whole idea of our school year has us with a shorter school year than most other countries. Our school day is shorter. Our number of instructional hours are shorter. And the kinds of coursework we are demanding don't necessarily translate to the skills you need in today's economy. Not only that, the military says that less than 25% of students that are people that are eligible age to join the military are actually capable due to either bad physical health, due to problems with criminal past, or the big one, they can't score high enough on the ASVAB. When I took the ASVAB, I thought you got a 50 just by filling out your name. I thought it was that easy. I ended up in the 95th to 99th percentile on everything and got choice of any duty assignment I wanted and was picked to go to West Point Prep. Bad guidance counseling had me not going to West Point Prep. One of those times when I came to the path, the split in the road, and I took the wrong path, and I admit it. So, think about this. We don't have a system that's working. We somehow have equated local control as something we need for education. This makes no sense at all, because nobody that you're electing on a school board is an education professional. I can name all 7 of our school board members in Dayton, and I can tell you that none of them has higher degrees in educational leadership or in much of that. Now, you've got some people that have worked in schools like Dion and Will. You have Gabriella Pickett that has a PhD. You have Cassandra Goodwine that has a JD. And it's still not functional. It's still not working. And honestly, what do they add other than another layer of overhead? At some point, we have to get serious about this, okay? So how do you build a strong teacher force? How do you get people to become teachers and stay teachers? Because we've had a whole lot of people leave or the profession. 1, because of COVID, and 2, because kids are more difficult these days for them to work with. So it's the idea of what do we value in this country? And, we've basically stopped paying teachers enough to make it a real profession. When you're topping out at maybe $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 in Ohio after 20, 25 years. And you can say, oh yeah, but they only work 180 days. Well, maybe that's our fault, not their fault. Maybe we need to make a year-round school and let you take vacations anytime you want except for when the standardized tests are, because missing a week here or 2 weeks there is not going to have a huge impact compared to what we have in the summer slide, where we have kids lose 20% of what they learn over summer vacation every single year. The reason we have a 3-month summer vacation used to be because we were an agrarian society and the kids were needed in the fields. That is so far from the case now that it's time to acknowledge that and move away. Unfortunately, the number one thing that parents expect from schools these days is to provide some place to watch the kids while they're at work, because we no longer have single income households, unless they're a single parent, to take care of the kids. There's no moms at home watching the kids anymore. So we need to reevaluate what's going on. And that doesn't necessarily mean more hours spent drilling, reading, writing, and arithmetic. It means focusing on other things as well, like having kids in extracurricular activities and learning about things that interest them. School should be fun. School should be a safe environment. School should be a place where kids want to go to school because they are engaged. So, we're not seeing that. We are not seeing anything like that. And the idea that teachers should have to go home after work and complete their job on their own time is wrong as well. You don't take your work home with you and do work at home without getting paid. Why should they? So maybe out of that 8 hours, we need to look at taking the first 4 hours of the day and having that for instruction. You take a half hour for lunch, and then the rest of the day is split for the teachers between working with kids in extracurriculars and doing their grading and their lesson planning. Now I see a comment here I'm going to have to read. Mark is saying, you haven't looked at school district budgets. A large percentage of teachers are making 80 to 90K. It's not unusual to see teachers at 100K plus. Maybe in districts like Oakwood or in other places, but in Dayton, some of them are starting as low as in the 40s and 50s. And that's with a master's degree. So we need to really take a look, and charter schools are paying even less. We really need to look at what we can do to encourage professional teachers and make it so school is fun for them too. Because there is nothing better in the world as a profession than being a teacher. You are making a difference in kids' lives. You are giving them the keys, basically, to their entire future. And it makes a difference. There were a few teachers in every one of our lives that turned us around or gave us direction. I'm going to tell you a short story because it was about halfway into COVID. I thought about it for a bit, and there was a teacher I had in 9th grade English. Her name was Glenna Ford. And she was like no other teacher in the school. She was young. She drove an AMC Javelin, which was a hot rod. So, that was kind of cool. She was probably 28 or 29. She taught English. And they wouldn't have her classroom up in the main building. They had to move her down in the wing with the band and the singers and home ec because her classes made so much noise. They apparently disrupted everybody else. And I looked her up. It took me a while to find her online, but I did. And when I called her, she didn't really remember me, but she was tickled to hear that she had been the one that really turned me into thinking I could write it all. Because up until that point, with a copy editor for a dad, all he could tell me was all the things I did wrong. Pops wasn't a teacher. He was a copy editor. There are some things that help when you encourage. But we had a really nice conversation, and the sad thing was she only taught for another year there after I left junior high. And then she went on to being involved in theater, which she's still doing to this day. And so she was one of those people that made a difference but couldn't take the administration and the structure or how they work things, and she moved on to something else that she had a passion for. But for me, she made a difference. And there's other ones as well. And those people deserve to get paid well. They deserve to be trained. They deserve continuing education. And they deserve status in our community. And Jen's saying Fairborn, Kettering, Bellbrook all pay what Mark is staying. Even Valley View, the average is 65. And this is with a lot of entry-level teachers. Still, we're not putting the best people in our classrooms all the time, and we're not keeping them. So something's not right. So, and Mark's Mark's calling me an old something or other that doesn't smell very good. Thank you for my birthday wishes. Again, the federal government has huge amounts of money that they put into different programs for education. They have the bully pulpit. They have the ability to tell districts that they have to perform at certain levels or cut funding or come in and do things. But they haven't, because we've got all these mishmash of government structures running schools and differently in every single state. One of the sad things is Texas apparently picks the textbooks for almost everybody because they're the largest state. So whatever they buy, everybody else ends up buying. Who put Texas in charge? Bad idea. Let's start looking at having real educational professionals, not Betsy DeVos running the Department of Education, and working at building a complete structure for delivering education in this country, and figure out, because there have been countries that have set up policy and changed things that have gone from widespread illiteracy to highly educated and skilled, some of them in just a few decades. We just need leadership and a plan to do that. And it's time to stop having local funding for something that is a matter of national security. Because if we don't educate them enough to make a good living, we end up paying for it later in terms of Social Security disability or welfare or social safety nets, because they are unemployable or they don't have the skills. Or they're illiterate and they go in to vote and can't figure out who to vote for, if you ever thought about it. Used to be you had to pass a test to vote in some places. Unfortunately, a whole bunch of voters made a big mistake in 2016, and supposedly all of them were literate. I didn't hear him complaining about the ballots then, but he sure has been in 2020, and people can't tell the difference. That's because we don't have enough people that are highly educated to see through absolute BS of American politics. Anyways, I am only 2 years younger than Mike Turner, and I am not paying alimony to any ex-wives. So thank you, Jen. Anyways, I really appreciate all of you for tuning in. It's been nice to have you. We now have on the front page of the website the latest video. It'll be there every day posted. So you can go back and watch. Or of course you can go to the YouTube channel and you can see them all there in the playlist called live streams. Okay. I am the only candidate doing this that I know of, and I plan on doing it once I get elected. Tell you what I did in Congress every day, so you know, and you can ask questions and you can give me feedback. This is part of why I plan on being your elected representative and not working for 19 billionaires from out of state. Still need to raise money for the campaign, so if you've got some and you'd like to kick some our way, please go to electisright.com/donate and make a donation. Everybody who donates will have an opportunity to win a Shepherd Ferry poster. And then again, there's one that very small odds, because there aren't going to be a whole lot of people there tonight at Coco's. You got a good shot there. And I thank you profusely for my 60 years on this planet, and that any of you are taking time out of your day to watch me. That's really, it's humbling. So, November 8th is coming. I need you all to get out and talk to people, talk about things I'm talking about here, tell them about this candidacy, talk to them about what their choices are, and help me win this so we can have sanity in Congress talking about bigger ideas than just about who feeding the people who gave them money and dealing out their pork projects for their district. We need somebody who's going to come in and start looking at the big picture and help communicate it. Hopefully, that'll be me. I'm going to give it a good effort. I need your help. Thank you so much, and we'll see you tomorrow at 4, where we will have a guest speaker, Eric Price, who's running in Greene County for state rep against Brian Lampton. And I am going to interview Eric and talk to him about his race, why he's in it, what he's doing. And it should be interesting. I've extended that invitation to other candidates. We'll see who shows up, but it should be good. So, again, thank you, and we'll see you tomorrow.